Oh hi, I saw you there, and I've been wondering why you've been standing here for the past hour and a half watching me intensively stare at a blue table. Now, I have a question. How can you get the experience of surfing when you're in the middle of a massive suburb? Or correction, when you're in the middle of a massive swamp? The answer to that question is Pipeline the Surf Coaster at SeaWorld Orlando. Or just those mud puddles over there. And to be perfectly honest, a short 30-second walk is a lot more cheaper than like a $700 flight to Orlando. Now, I'm gonna go and try it actually. Hello, I'm Ray the Coaster Critic, and today I will be presenting to you a review on Pipeline the Surf Coaster at SeaWorld Orlando. A ride that I rode a few months ago since this recording, and I now cut to myself standing in a puddle of mud for a ride that I rode like 5 months ago. And this is what happens when you let your channel die. Pipeline the Surf Coaster at SeaWorld Orlando is a B&M surf coaster that is the first of its kind, and I would say that this is a pretty big win for SeaWorld Orlando. And today, we're going to be looking over my personal thoughts and a brief history of this great coaster. All I can say is, I'm very glad that the prediction I made almost 2 years ago now was false. Pipeline started off as a bit of a coaster enthusiast mystery. You see, back in 2020, early 2020, we got some new permits that SeaWorld had filed about a surf coaster. We had no idea what this was. All we know is that it was by B&M and SeaWorld Orlando was getting the first one of them. Everyone's imaginations went absolutely wild. It was bonkers up in the coaster community. Everyone wanted to know what this was. Was it a launch coaster? Was it a stand-up launch coaster? Was it a backwards launch coaster? Was it a launch coaster? Everyone had various ideas, but they all collected into the same thing. Most likely, it was going to be a launch with the possibility of it being a next-generation stand-up coaster. Now, when I heard this news, I originally thought, a next-generation stand-up coaster doesn't seem that bad. I mean, like, I've heard of some pretty bad things about the normal stand-up coasters, but surely they're not that bad, right? Oh, how I was mistaken. After the pandemic happened, however, we started losing a bunch of information about what the surf coaster was. We didn't even know if it was still happening. That was until we noticed that construction began to start in the area where this new surf coaster was rumored to be. But like most coasters, SeaWorld hyped up Pipeline a lot. Like, they gave us a full-on pre-announcement just showing off the fact that there was a surf coaster that existed. And then it's, whoa, it's a stand-up coaster and it launches. They didn't tell us the name though, or did they show us any cool elements? They just showed us the fact that it's a surf coaster. And then, cut to like 2 months later, they finally tell us, oh yeah, It's called Pipeline, the surf coaster. Are you happy now, coaster enthusiasts? We told you about the model that we were developing for years before this, but because the world decided it wanted to do a bit of an oopsie and shut down for 2 years, we couldn't give it to you until now. When the surf coaster pre-announcement came along, I was one of the first people to jump on it and say that it would suck. That video is still up on YouTube. Would I recommend watching it? Not really, because the thoughts are very outdated, but it was my thought at the time, and the only stand-up coaster I'd experienced before then was Riddler's Revenge. And with old B&Ms, preparing for it required enough equipment and knowledge that you could take on the US Army, and the amount of things you had could outpace the people who buy every dental product. And if you don't get that last one, trust me, there are only like 5 people on this earth who actually buy more than a toothbrush, toothpaste, and mouthwash. And those people, quite frankly, need to see a psychiatrist, because the only way you're storing that many products is with a missile silo. Oh right, yeah, this is a Pipeline review. But eventually, Pipeline was announced, and the hype was getting a bit intense. I was still sort of in my camp of the ride may suck, but people were looking at the new bouncing restraints and thought, maybe this could save the immense leg pain stand-up coasters like to bring. As testing of the ride commenced, we got to get another good look into how this ride would feel, and also what the seats actually did. And it turns out the animation, while yes, it was very obviously pretty sped up, was still pretty accurate, and the seat bouncing was especially accurate. Eventually, Pipeline would open on May 27, 2023, to rave reviews. Everyone was in love with this ride. Despite the fact that it was a stand-up coaster, B&M, out of some weird magic, had actually managed to fix it. And out of this news, I was excited to try it out in like 2 years' time. And then suddenly I was able to go to Florida again, so it turns out I got to try it out in its opening year, and my god, it's actually good! So, with that being said, let's look at a POV of the ride and see how it actually goes. You start out by exiting the station and sit on the launch track. You sit in anticipation as you wait. You'll probably also notice that your seats can still move up and down at this time. Then, you launch off into the first and only launch. Then over into an overbanked curve. Then into another valley into what is probably the best airtime moment of the ride, where you get flung upwards into the air and then right back down, through a water feature and then into a corkscrew. Then up into some trim brakes that actually surprisingly hit pretty hard. Then into a rather forceful turn, but not too forceful. Then into another turn that is the same as the last one, and then into a minor airtime hill, still giving you some nice floater, but while standing up. Then into another curve, into another one, and ending the ride with a final curve into the brake run. Pipeline, in my opinion, is a very tame coaster. It's just the standing up feature is what makes it so intense. And it's also what makes it so goddamn fun. However, no ride is without its kinks, quirks, and kerfuffles, and Pipeline does have a few of those. The main ones being, dear God, your collarbones are going to be dead if you get stacked for too long on this ride. The B&M vest restraints, which are the restraints this ride uses, because B&M basically abandoned the over-the-shoulder restraints in a house fire 40 years ago, do dig into your collarbones. For some reason on this ride specifically, they're really tight. So, if you get the unfortune of getting a breakdown on this ride, or just having to stack on the brake run for too long, expect your collarbones to be sore, especially if you plan on rewriting it. However, overall, Pipeline is a wonderful ride. The pros far outweigh the cons, and in my opinion, this is a great addition to SeaWorld Orlando. But for the love of God, can they lay off of B&M for once? Like, I would have even made this joke if they weren't getting Penguin Trek this year, but they are. They just won't stop with the B&Ms. they're expensive, but I guess Zero just loves how reliable they are. But my god, Zero needs to calm down and be in it. So anyway, that'll wrap it up for this Pipeline the Surf Coaster review. I hope you liked it, and I hope you think that this weekly video upload schedule will do, because that appears to be what I'm going to do going forward. I'm actually recording this video before that Manta episode uploaded, so you're actually seeing this about 2 weeks after it uploaded. So if anything happens with Pipeline in that time, well, it's not going to be in this video, obviously. So, yeah. But anyway, hope you liked this video. Subscribe if you haven't yet. If you like me more on subscribing, leave a like. And I was the Coaster Critic, you're the viewer, and I'll see you in the future. Goodbye.